All right. Awesome. Um, you good to go?
Let's rock.
All right. You good to go?
Good to go, man. I got my coffee. I got my rogue pouch.
Oh, the old
He
road.
literally, as I was like letting you in, he's like, I don't got no fucking chew with me. Man, I knew I should have brought
I like the Rogue, but man, once you get to the Black Buffalo pouches, they're even better. I don't know if you did you ever actually chew?
Oh, years
Yeah,
ago, I used to do some Kodiak back in the
yeah.
day.
Kodiak,
Fucking
man, that shit was
disgusting.
Kodiak ice. The the Black Buffalo is like a much bigger pouch. So like if you have like a pocket like I have, like you can actually put two in and fill it up, and it feels like chew. They also have long cut too.
Yeah, it's well, I was last night, so I didn't get home till about 2 a.m. because I work locally with some professional sports teams. So we're in the middle of training camp. So I was out at our training camp working with the guys till late last night. So I need a little pick me up. So a little caffeine, a little nicotine,
Yeah,
awesome nootropics.
we'll get you on some chew.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while when I'm
He
drinking,
threw a chew in. We were at camping, had him drinking. I was like, "Yeah, throw a chew in." And what'd you do
it
for?
was, I think it was a Zen.
No, it was a Black Buffalo. How long
Was
you do
it?
it for? About 5 minutes. You're like,
Oh,
mm-mm.
not even. Not
Oh,
yeah, like
it'll rock you. You start hiccuping, shitting yourself, everything.
I'll throw like two to three of them things.
well, welcome back to Dude Dads.
Come on.
All right, guys,
Nothing off
excited back
topic.
at it. Summer has been, I don't want to say kicking our ass, but we've been
I've been
summering.
kicking Summer's ass,
Yeah,
at least this summer.
we've been summering pretty hard the past few weeks, so kind of inconsistent with the podcast, but that's cool. We're back now.
Fuck it. Who cares?
Back now. Got another virtual guy, Mr. Matt Meyer. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, guys, it's awesome.
Yeah, man. So we were connected by a mutual friend, Mark England. Dude is an absolute beast at mindset, self-talk. I mean,
Yeah.
the workshop he did for my gym at a CrossFit over about a month ago just is one of those things where it just left you. You go in feeling one way, you're thinking one way, right? I kind of got this under control. I'm pretty good mindset dude. I'm in a good headspace majority of the time, and then you leave and you're like, fuck, maybe I didn't know everything. Maybe I still can use some tools, and that's exactly how I left with Mark, and he was able to connect, you and us. So, and here we are, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, Mark can go in and literally do mental surgery on people. It is unbelievable. My path to meeting Mark is so I'm a sports therapist in Buffalo, New York. I
Mhm.
work with professional athletes, Olympic athletes, really the whole gamut. And from a performance standpoint, right? And what I started to realize, I've been in a game for 20 years. So what I started to realize years ago is that there's a huge missing component of being able to work with these guys. You have the body stuff, but then where does the mindset set in? And in the internet age, you Google mindset and you get thousands of hits, right, of what to do. And it's like, all right, do I want to be a meditation instructor? Or do I want to teach breath? Or all these different things. And when I started seeing Mark's work and the Lifted method 3 or 4 years ago, it really struck with me. And I was like, oh, this is how I can integrate the mindset piece. And in the Lifted community, we have the definition of mindset is one simple thing, the story we tell ourselves. And I work with sports psychologists and things like that, and they love that because they have these paragraph long definitions of mindset. It boils down to the story we tell ourselves. Everything after that. So going through the elliptic courses, I'm a level 2 instructor, and now I can start to integrate in, all of the physical stuff I do with my athletes, and also the mental stuff. And sometimes it simply is just changing that mindset. Like I had a kid come in yesterday, a local high school quarterback. He came in, he's like, "Oh, I injured my knee." And I said, "Listen, you're not injured anymore, you're healing. Now you're healing." And he was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
it. It's simple turns like that. And in the CrossFit community, anything like that, any performance stuff, that mindset is huge. If you wake up in the morning and you're already like thinking about that and thinking about what you're going to do today and all the shit you have to do, like changing that mindset sets you up for success.
Dude, that what you just said there about you're not injured anymore, you're healing.
Huge.
Never heard that.
This isn't happening.
It, it's
Just
said
like
that it's
Mark was saying with relationships, this didn't happen to me.
something for you.
It happened for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're right. So you going back where you said, all right, what is mindset? The stories you tell yourself. And there's no reason for a long, dissertation or overthinking what that really is.
Yes,
All right. And so go back to being a coach. A good coach gets their point across with as few words as possible. So if you can
absolutely.
get people thinking about mindset by saying those little handful of words, that little short sentence, hey, it's just a story you tell yourself. And the majority of the time, if there's a problem, it's because you're telling yourself a fake story, or something that's not really true, or you're fabricating it, you're creating problems for yourself. Then it's an easier way to fix it, correct?
Absolutely. And the cueing is really important that you talked about there because being around the performance fitness communities for years, I would see a lot of strength coaches and they're over cueing their clients and
Mm-hmm.
athletes. And you get lost in this and you just end up in this like gelatinous bullshit of like, what do I do? What do I do? So, less is more, especially when it comes to that. If you're teaching an athlete, and you're saying, "Oh no, hinge here. Your right foot needs to be turned out this way. This." You just confuse them. So learning about the words and how to boil that down into specific, cueing is so important too. Especially like in the game with CrossFit and things like that. So important.
Yeah, and I coach, so I'm a CrossFit coach. I've done it for God, 12-ish years now. I also, for the last couple of years, coach Pop Warner football for six
Oh,
six
nice.
year olds, 6U,
Wow,
which we
nice.
started yesterday. My voice is all hoarse because spent 2.5 hours yelling at 6 year olds. Um, but but those cues and getting them to move well for an adult CrossFit athlete or a
Yeah.
5 and 6 year old football player is exactly the same. You're just trying to
Yes.
find a way to reach individual athletes when there's an issue, when you need them to move differently or think differently or pay attention with little kids, just getting them to focus, right? So it's funny how you can step back and look at the 10,000 foot view of all this, and you're like, there's more similarities than there is not in coaching an adult CrossFit athlete, just strength and conditioning stuff, to trying to teach a 6 year old how to play football.
Yeah.
The
Listen, even
similarities are so much.
It's
even expand on that, even into the school system and things like that. Like, there's so much bullshit. Are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
Oh yeah.
fuck
All right,
no.
all right, fuck it. So there's so much bullshit in general of how we teach our kids in the learning process. And Matt Boudreau is a great guy. He runs the Apogee program with Tim Kennedy. Definitely give him a follow on Instagram. And he really dives deep. And he actually was a lifted guy, and he knows Mark as well. And talking with kids and children and learning in general, that applies across the board. Sports, school, at home, how we talk with our kids and our loved ones, how we talk with students makes such a difference.
Mhm.
You know, you can mentally abuse a kid through words so easily. And that doesn't matter if it's on the football field and whatnot. I have two girls, and they were both competitive gymnasts. And I would sit and watch these coaches and their mindset and their energy and then their words. They were already setting up these kids, in my case, for not for success. It was the opposites. They're no longer competitive gymnasts because of that. But seeing that optics now, and it's like, man, the energy you come in when you're coaching or a school, and then those words are so important because kids are absorbing way more. They're much more, they're paying attention much more than we think. Even though they're all over the place, especially with girls, they're very intuitive. And you have to lead with those right words, man. It's so important. Thoughts and words are the two starting foundation factors before we talk about movement, hydration, sleep. That's where we start.
Yeah.
I like that. I coach high school tennis, and my first day, even the first probably 2, maybe even 3 days, especially the first day, I almost purposely make it an awkward day. They don't
Mm.
go in the drills. They don't come in and like I'm like, yeah, let's get to it. Let's get in the drill. Da, 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 da. I'm just like, I just say who's played, how much talent do you have, or not talent, how much experience do you have, blah blah, and I put them all together and I just let them hit. And why that is I can't coach people I don't know. So I just watch them hit so that I don't even care about their skill. I'm trying to see what kind of personality and what kind of
Yeah.
confidence they have in themselves. Because if they
All right.
don't, yeah,
I'm not going to lie. First off, when you're like, I coach, tennis was the last thing that I thought you were going to say.
everybody says
I thought you were
that.
going to be like, yeah, I teach a rodeo class and also learning how to shoot pigs from a helicopter. I mean, that's
I
a
was a
compliment. That's a
yeah, I was a
compliment.
football coach for years before that. But when the head coach, because I just all around athlete, and I really enjoyed tennis. So
Tennis is awesome, man.
the head coach position came up, and at that time, one of my buddy's kids was on the team. He was like, "Man, you should do it." I was like, "Man, fuck!" Now you told me about it. I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm definitely going to do it." And I was more like, "I'm gonna challenge myself. I'm gonna become a head coach. I love tennis." And
I love it.
yeah,
I love
so but the first day is I make it almost awkward for the kids because they're a little bit confused because they're not getting coached. Which because in my head I'm like, I can't coach. I don't even know you. You know, if I got a
it.
lot of
Yeah.
new kids coming in, I'll say, like, just go hit, and then I can watch their personalities. And like you said, everyone's telling themselves a story. A lot of these kids don't have stories. They don't tell themselves anything. A lot of them come in, they don't have a lot of confidence.
Yep.
The backhand, the forehand, the serve. I can't go in there and teach them all the stuff. They don't even own their own body yet. They have no confidence in anything that they're doing. So I had to walk like I let them hit for a while, and then I usually bring the young kids in. I say, hey, this is where you're at, and this is great. Now it's okay to like just like let go. Like I'm gonna give you permission to let go because they come in real timid. They're waiting. You know, they're not sure if they're allowed to be aggressive. I'm like, hey man, like come on, like you hit a good shot, like scream a little bit, give a little energy, like own what you're doing, get a little confidence. Once I start getting a little confidence, I'm like, okay.
Then you start to really see them.
Then I'm like, okay, let your personality come out first. Let me just don't even worry about the technique. Let me just see you, know what I'm working with, and then I know where to start with you. And then, like you said, I don't give them 100 things at once. You got to start with one thing.
Yes.
Can you keep the
Yes.
ball moving before anything else? I don't give a fuck about the serve, your backhand. Like, can you just keep the ball moving? Let's start with that.
Then you start fine tuning things.
Then I'm like, all right, now I'll teach you a technique of a forehand after you can just hit a shitty whatever you're doing back and forth. Can you just rally? Can so yeah, I like that because that's what I do. I try to make an awkward first day and see if they even own themselves. Like if I get a football, like a lot of times if I'll get like one football player a year, they'll come right over and they know themselves. They're ready to rock. You know what I mean? I'm like, all
Yeah.
right. It's like
Yeah.
first day they're like, yo, I can smash the shit on this right. I'm like, let's go.
That's funny too, seeing the different athletes cross over and how it helps them or
Yeah.
whatever. So you
Yeah.
you mentioned, well, I guess let me back up a little bit because looking through like your Instagram and all that and like your products that you endorse, I said, are your products, do you sell them, endorse them, or are they your
Yeah,
sponsors?
yeah. So, over the course of years, like I'm always about, so when I'm working with clients and athletes, my job is not only to help them in my studio here with movement and different types of hands-on therapies. I want them to continue the work when they leave here.
Mhm.
So using products, whether it be like a supplement or, some self-care things, red light therapy, all that stuff, I really try to get that holistic approach. So, that's the key. And in centralized medicine, where I was for a while in sports medicine, everything is this reductionist thing from the body and everything else. So one of the reasons why I got out of that a little bit is that I can really look at the body as a whole. I can not only from a physical standpoint, but also say, all right, how much screen time is your kid getting and they're an athlete? How much blue light, how much all these things, they all play a role. And every day more and more research is coming out about those disruptors. So giving people all the products that I endorse that I use them myself.
Mhm.
And I'm like, this is great. So I'm always trying to give people that entry level of things to do, not only, exercises or things that are homework, but things to enhance their life when they're out of my space.
Mhm.
What like why would somebody come your way? Like what are they looking for when they come your way?
Yeah, so typically most of the people like in my so I basically operate in two forms. So I have a private studio here, so with a therapy room, and I have a gym, and then I also contract for NFL, NLL, NHL teams, Olympics, a lot of high school kids. Typically, they come to me when they're like stuck, or your 8 sessions of physical therapy that's been deemed necessary by the insurance company is up at the local PT place,
Yeah.
and they send them to me. So I'm all cash based. I do not deal with insurance. And what happens is there's a transition, and this is where the words are important. Someone comes out of a medical centralized practice as a patient. A patient to me is someone that goes somewhere to have something done to them. When they transition into me, they're no longer a patient, they are a client. A client is a partnership. We are working together to better your health.
Hmm.
And that's the word piece. And then also because I don't accept insurance, they're paying out of pocket for my services. So that also changes something. They are all of a sudden very invested.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
more
buddy.
invested.
And when I say, listen, I want you to do these two mobility exercises at home, and I want you to, I want you to hit this with the Theragun, they're like, yes.
Yeah.
They're like, yes. And I also get to see people less. They don't have to come see me 3 times a week if they're doing their homework.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to transition it and take that initiative. So typically that's it. I get a lot of my business is almost all referrals. My wife makes fun of me because I don't even have a business card. Everything is referrals. And it's usually people that have kind of tried this, and this, and they send it to me and they're just like, fuck it, go see Matt.
Do you
Yeah.
do you find a common mental block with most athletes once they get to you, you know?
I find that there's always a piece of the puzzle that can be helped through words and
Yeah.
whatnot. And also, too, what's really important is I also have a great Rolodex. I don't think people use Rolodexes anymore, but a great contact list of other practitioners. And I'm always very cautious. If somebody comes in and they're having a mental health issue that's out of my scope of practice, so I send them to a psychologist or a mental health practitioner. But for the most part, Mark says this all the time. You don't need a PhD to solve a problem that could be just written down in 4-step, which is something we do in the lifted method.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so I'm always trying, and some people are more receptive to it. When Mark did the workshop, did he go over like the soft talk challenge?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually have a big wooden plaque in my studio that when you walk in, it's got all the soft talk words.
Yeah. He showed us that wooden plaque he has
Yeah.
in his garage.
That's what I have there. So the only difference is I don't have machine guns and stuffed raccoons in my garage in my
Oh, I
studio.
love it.
Mark does. So
Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with that.
Soft talk with
hey,
harm
I
you.
love them. I love them too, but it might scare some people. It might scare some
That's
people.
great. I mean, it's funny how all this stuff connects to each other, right? Because
Yes.
if someone comes to see you because their shoulder was jacked up, they went to PT, whatever,
Yep.
now they're stuck, right? Now and we all know with the basic, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of the local physical therapy places that the doctor has you go for 8 weeks, and they're
Yep.
not doing aggressive myofascial work. They're not doing aggressive like real massage therapy, right? You
Yep.
always see that in like someone like you, a specialized. You're paying out of pocket. I've done all that too. I'm like,
Yep.
I go to physical therapy because the doctor ordered me to. And like, well, this like I know this shit. I already like I need something more. Like I could do this in the gym.
I need to know what I don't know.
Yeah.
I
So
need somebody who knows a lot more than
or
me.
somebody
Yeah.
specialized, right? But then also the next level is they come to you, and there is a mental piece to it because you're defeated when
Absolutely.
like nothing has worked and my shoulder is still fucked, right? Is this forever? Oh my God, I'm never going to do this again. I'm going to have these limitations forever. I'm going to have surgery or so there is a big time mental defeat to it, especially if you're a serious athlete, if you're playing professionally or going to the Olympics or whatever.
Do you find people getting prescribed a lot of drugs too from the common practice?
That's always a piece of it. not so much from like the physical therapy world, but from the, the general practitioner world.
Yeah.
And listen, there's a time and a place where pharmaceutical interventions are important,
Yeah.
but what we're seeing is now the physicians coming out of medical school, and now you have this cascade of nurse practitioners, physicians assistants that are taking over. So,
Yes.
you know, one of my things I'm seeing is that, you have these doctors that are going to school for 9, 10 years, and then you have the whole outfit of like being a physician's assistant was really just so that doctors can see more patients. And I've talked about this before. I feel like physicians are losing the art of medicine.
Yes.
So doctor in Latin really means teacher. And, very rarely a physician will even touch you or anybody in their practice. You come in with a shoulder, they're like, do this, and, maybe PT, maybe a script. And they're losing the art of medicine. They're seeing so many patients. Some of it is because of the insurance mafia
Hmm.
is forcing them into seeing all these patients. So they lose that art of what it is to be a therapist or a physician. And even in physical therapy practices, you have these, physical therapists that have their doctors of physical therapy, super smart, tons of CEs, and they have a physical therapy assistant doing a lot of the work.
I just learned about that, my chiropractor, the difference of licensed and then a certified. So I was telling him, I was like, massages. I was like, man, I try like just for my back and shit. He's like, yeah, you gotta make sure they're like, he's like, there's differences and levels of that. He's like, someone, between a licensed, a certified.
And it
And
differs.
it's funny you
It
say that
differs.
about doctors too, because people think I'm crazy. I don't have a family doctor.
Yeah.
And that's because I got tired of seeing PAs. I go in there and see a PA. I'm like, not for nothing. But if I'm coming in your business, aren't I supposed to see a doctor? Like, I'm good. Like, I don't need an opinion. Not that you won't be good one day, but like, I'd like to have the opinion. Like, people don't hire me to do jobs. And then, I send my son in. Like, yeah, he's trained to be taking over the
Yeah.
company one day. So
Well,
I go to adult medicine up and it's just a round robin. Whatever doctor's on
Yeah.
available, boom, I see a doctor. I don't do
Yeah.
none of that shit.
you hit the nail on the head when you said like the Western medical doctors are kind of losing the art of medicine and treating people, and there's always all these offshoots. But always try to look at the good in things. The good in that is people like you come to shine more because because you're more available, and in this internet age and this information age, the information's out there.
Consumers
You
are smarter.
Yeah, the consumers are way smarter. They have
More
access
wants.
to you because when they start learning about what can really help them, and people start buying into these things. So all the products you endorse, and which by the way, shout out to Strong Coffee, because I subscribe
Mm.
to them monthly. I try to drink my strong coffee Monday through Friday, then have my
Yeah.
real coffee on the weekends as a treat.
Yeah.
But anyway, and that's another phenomenal product, by the way. But
Love it.
the the blue light stuff, the infrared therapy, the cold water immersion, the all these little holistic type things that actually do work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of preventative measures that happen from just making these little habits because someone like you knows and can educate their clients. So now, like, unless there's a medical emergency, a broken bone, torn something or another, there's a lot of things you can do without a
You don't need
Western
them.
doctor,
You don't need them.
Here's a
right?
lot. I'm going to break this down for you real simple. There's no other place in the world that if you're in a car accident, that have a gunshot wound, that you need acute care, that you want to be. Our hands down, we have the best acute care ever. But if you look at the stats, we have failed in treating chronic disease in the last 30 or 40 years. And it is highly due to the pharmaceutical lobbies, to the food lobbies that are pushing poisons into our society. And that's why the statistics don't lie. And chronic disease is skyrocketing, obesity, diabetes, Alzheimer's. I was just listening on the way back yesterday. I was listening to Rogan's podcast, and he had on this guy from Germany who wrote a book on how the Nazis were using drugs in research
Psychedelics.
warfare. In his next book, he just wrote that they were talking about is how psychedelics were being used and how his mom was suffering from Alzheimer's, and they started microdosing her with LSD. And it's an awesome podcast. I can't remember the guy's name. It just dropped in this last week, but he talked about, I think by 2050, dementia and Alzheimer's is going to be skyrocketed 5 times as much. And there are direct links to sugar consumption, environmental toxins, inflammation. That's really what it is, inflammation of the brain. So all of these external factors that we are dealing with, unfortunately, your GP isn't going to know shit about that.
No.
That's one of my biggest fears is dementia. I have played so much football for so long. I mean, you're talking third grade, full contact through college, post college. Then said, you know what, that's not enough. Let me polish it off with rugby. I can still remember my last practice. I went over the gate, which is like there's a gate in rugby where like the person you can only go cross over, fucking to rook somebody. My guy kneed me in the head. I did the rigor mortis move. You know, you get hit hard enough, you rigor mortis. I go sideline. My brother was like in the car. He's like, "Yo, you had enough yet?" I'm like, "Yeah, I should probably quit." And I was probably 25 at the time. I was like, "I think I've hit enough hits in my head." But
Yeah.
like now, I saw that Joe Rogan podcast probably 2 years ago where they were talking about how he was like, if I could sell the sauna in a pill, it's like 40% decrease in Alzheimer's. I believe that's what he's saying. He's like, you can sell that in a pill, everybody'd be taking it. So I was
Yeah.
like, I go out of my way to hit the sauna now. That's like one of my biggest fears. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, nobody talks about that shit. Like, hey man, did you hit your head against another person for all those years? You should probably jump in. I don't know, the sauna. That's one little trick you can do.
Well, you don't have to
So
spend
many.
$5,000 on an infrared sauna either.
No, I have a Y membership.
Or-
It's
or-
it's open at 5 a.m. You know, I'll pop
For
right in.
sure.
Or you can go outside.
The cool thing that I've noticed in like, you know, how it kind of trickles down and like, at least from in like professional sports and stuff, Europe is really far ahead. They're always really far ahead in how they treat soccer or football. They're doing stuff that we're doing now 15 years ago. And it kind of trickles down. And now, you know, things are becoming more accessible.
Yeah.
And so there's more competition, so the prices drop. And that's the good thing as we're seeing more things. You know, now you can, and I always tell people, it's like, you know, low-hanging fruit. Like pick something, a sauna, put it in your budget, try to save up for it, join a local Y, you know, a cold tub. Now, you know, you can go on Facebook and there's like DIY cold tub groups that teach you how to build that. And, you know, and then, you know, something too is if you really want to go down the rabbit hole about centralized and decentralized medicine, there's a guy named Dr. Jack Kruse, Kruse. I highly suggest giving him a follow. He's a neurosurgeon who has left mainstream medicine. And he has got a whole movement of people that are starting to heal themselves in nature, talking about grounding, talking about sunlight. Jerry, I'll send you, so you guys know who Andrew Huberman is?
Oh, yeah.
All right, So I'm going to send you a podcast with Rick Rubin, Jack Kruse, and Andrew Huberman. It's 7 hours long.
Jesus Christ.
And you're going to see Dr. Jack absolutely rips Andrew Huberman in centralized medicine. And he throws Peter Attia under the bus too. You will be, it is a must listen. And
I just followed Dr. Jack Kruse.
You'll start to see these connections. And nature and humans have been healing themselves for hundreds of thousands of years. You know, this industrial age kind of put an end to that. And I think now, especially post-pandemic, that and post all this bullshit with COVID, people are really starting to wake up and be like, oh, like nature provides me with a lot to heal through food, through light, through getting outside. And
dude, on my wedding day, people thought I was crazy. On my wedding day, absolutely hungover, and I was like, "Yo, I gotta sleep in front of the sun." I was like, "It'll get my immune going, and I'll be back in like no time."
Yep.
I fell asleep on a sand dune for an hour. Everyone else thought I was crazy. Like I used to lifeguard a lot, and then the sun would always hail me. I just sit in that sun,
It's a
get my immune
recharge.
going, dude. Yeah, and I'll be back
I
at
mean,
it.
that's why they have solar panels on their house. They're charging their houses.
Yeah.
That's the
I I
reason.
I was
That's the reason why primates made the jump. They were hairy and furry. They did not need that sun. When humans came onto the scene, the reason why we do not, other than a few, people that are super hairy, but we do not have that kind of hair because we are literal solar panels for the
yeah.
sun.
Have you ever heard this? I read this thing. This has got to be 5 years ago. I don't remember much of it, but the main point was cancer patients trying to stare into the sun to try, like to fix their immune. Like they were talking about the power of the sun and actually staring into it.
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever heard, what is it?
sun gazing.
Sun gazing. So you
Yeah,
have heard of
sun
this?
gazing. And that has a lot to do with, I mean, like I said, you could go down the rabbit hole with
Yeah.
it, but at the end of the day, our eyes are basically, when our brains develop, our brains squish our eyeballs out of our ocular cavity. They are part of the brain. And there's an entire mechanism of absorbing the sun and melanin. It's truly, truly amazing.
Yeah.
If
You
yeah.
know, it's again, it's going back to if you provide the right environment, nature can heal a lot. And it's not to, like I said, it's not to throw out regular medicine, but I just want people to not, when they go into their doctor's office or their therapist's office, to not just be like, I don't know, just do it.
Yeah.
You have to ask questions. You have to research. You have to be able to say, I don't necessarily agree with this. What about that?
Oh, dude, when Candace and I were saying no to COVID shots
Yeah.
during this times, especially
His
with our kids, they were like they thought
Oh
we were
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, his wife and my wife are both teachers here in our local school district. So when all that was going on, they either had to get
Yeah.
vaccinated or they had to get weekly tests.
Yeah.
And by the time that came out, everybody was just exhausted from it. Just completely, oh my gosh, just wanted to be done. And I remember at one point my wife was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna fucking get the vaccine so I don't have to worry about this shit anymore. And I told her, I was like, just hang on, just don't. And
Yeah.
she was afraid, right? She was afraid they're
Of
gonna make me
course.
do this, whatever. And I said, all right, if you do it, I will. I'm not gonna make you do that by yourself. I said, but just hang tight for a little bit. Just suck it up. And like 3 months of it, then all of a sudden it was like, all right, we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, see, it was good
Yeah.
just to hang tight. Just don't
I
do it.
mean, look at
Same thing with the,
Aaron Rodgers was belittled. If you
oh, I
look at the
know.
Yeah.
story of what happened, I mean, the guy, again, he was going through all the protocols and, because he didn't want to get, and it's, you know, there's so much there. There's so much there. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to be your own doctor first.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think they've really showed their colors there. When I was in that doctor's office, now I am in construction. I actually first came from a high pressure sales background.
Hmm.
And that is exactly I could tell, like just being a part of that for so long, I could tell that my PA was being trained by her doctor on what to say. She already had the script. It was
Yeah.
if she was selling me a roof, it was just different lingo, but the bulletins were all there. And she's hitting it, hitting it, hitting it. And I was like, no, no. Well, let me go get my doctor so she can explain. I'm like, here come what are we at, car sales now? You're the
That's
manager. And I
Yeah.
just said to both, I said, I don't do high pressure sales. And the fact you're doing high pressure tells me you don't fucking know about it. And I'm definitely not doing it. Like,
yeah. It does suck. It's like that,
and then everybody will probably be on a fucking infomercial, 12 o'clock at night in 10 years. Hey, did you get the COVID vaccine from Pfizer? Hey, we're all
Yeah.
in a class action lawsuit. Jump in.
there's so much, and Christ, we could spend an hour talking about that. And I'm glad to hear that we're on the same page with those things. There's we have no regrets. We have young kids. I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old now. So back then they were even younger, and the kids would get sick, right? They have sniffles or whatever the hell, right? So you would take them to the doctor. Or at one point, my son we didn't know at the time, he was really constipated and really bad
Yeah.
stomach pains, where we were just like, we got to take him to the walk-in because this something's not right. And all the nurse would talk about was COVID. She just kept asking about it.
Yeah.
And I could keep my cool majority of the time. And I was really starting to get pissed off about it. And like I told my wife, I said, if she mentions COVID one more fucking time instead of worrying about my son's stomach, I'm gonna lose it.
That's
I
how it
mean, this
was too, man. Yeah.
and like what? Why are you
Yeah.
talking about this? Has he had the COVID shot? Has he been around anybody? Like he has a stomach. He can't sleep. He's crying because his stomach hurts so bad, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, I had to push through all that to get a doctor to go, okay, you know what? You feel that? There's a little stool stuck in there. Hey, he's just constipated. Why was that so hard to do that? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think like everybody out humans are survivors. Industries will try to survive if they're being attacked. So do you think that after this COVID that Western medicine doctors probably do you find that they feel attacked? And because everyone's a little smarter, I always feel like the doctor, when I tell them like how I'm treating myself, they're like, you can't treat yourself. I'm like, no, all the information's out there. You guys ain't the smart guys anymore. You kind of rat yourselves out during COVID. So do you find any pushback from Western medicine or people around you?
Or like a shift in the
They
way
were like, we
they're
gotta
treated.
survive. So
Here's
do they? But if you're in that industry, you're supposed to just care about humans. So if they're do they have you found that they let go? Like, hey, yes, those things are all true. You don't need us that much. There is more information out there. It is cool to do. Or do you find that they would belittle anything outside of them?
here's what I was seeing. This is from not only from physicians, but also some of my contacts was within like the research world. It was unprecedented the guardrails that were being put on research in this and the scare tactics. And I had physicians tell me off the record that they had an entirely different idea of the narrative, but they were afraid. They were afraid to speak out. Um, I just finished this really interesting book. It's called this guy's Dr. Wolfson. He's the paleocardiologist, right? And
Ooh,
he talked about this was even before any of the pandemic. He he was in a medical practice, cardiologist, doing all the things, and he actually met his wife, who's a chiropractor, at like a farmer's market, and his wife changed his entire output. And when he started, talking about things like food and sunlight, the his cardiology practice, like he was a board certified cardiologist, very, very like renowned. His dad was. They basically kicked him out of the practice
mm, mm.
because he was not sticking to the narrative. And that was tenfold, over the last 4 or 5 years. So they are afraid, and the few that have been absolutely hung out to dry. So, like Dr. Cruz, I believe he has been being sued by medical organizations right now because of his stance he took about the vaccines and whatnot. So,
Good.
it's,
I mean, it's not good he's being sued,
yeah,
but it's a great sign to hear that there's doctors, especially really high up surgeons,
yeah,
you know, that are speaking up, and yeah,
yes.
they're going to get crucified. They're going to be the scapegoats, and then at uh at some point, I think, and I hope that there's a big shift in the way Western medicine is done, because you can't hide it anymore, just in this information age.
Just like with Jordan Peterson, like Canada wants to. What do they say? They want to like pretty much retrain his brain. He has to. What do they have to do? Like
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, so I'm in Buffalo, New York, so I'm 20 minutes from the Canadian border.
yeah,
And what was going on there with the truckers, they
Yeah,
were freezing their accounts. Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy what
dude.
had
yeah.
happened.
Isn't
And
that wild that that's happening 20 minutes from you?
it's happening
Like,
in 20 minutes. And, so I also work with a lot of Canadian athletes. So we have a professional lacrosse team here, and most of the guys are actually from Canada. And what they had to go through in order to just cross the border,
yeah,
and it was, I mean, you're listening to this and it's like George Orwell, 1984. And
yeah,
you're like, I would be in awe of
yeah.
what was happening.
You
And it was, for me, it was even more of a push to um, really step out of that centralized care and start researching even more and how I can empower people
Love
to
it.
let them be their own doctors. Paul Check is a guy that I look up to. I've been looking at Paul's work, and working for 20 years, and he talked about it years ago, and it's like you have the ability, like these six modifiable factors he talks about: thoughts, words, movement, sleep, nutrition. Like these are the first things. Hippocrates, one of the first physicians, talked about let food be thy medicine.
Yeah.
And that's what we've lost.
Yep.
And my goal now is to help people to get back and take those things, own all of those pieces. And then when you need help, you go to centralized medicine and say, hey, I've done all this. Let's see what more help I can get. So it's not about pushing them out, but it's about taking empowering yourself.
Do you treat like retired athletes
I
like
do.
as a I would say retired athlete, I've had a long career of sports. I'm almost 40, and now like when they say, hey, it'll catch up to you later, it's catching up.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so I've gone to the chiropractor. I've gotten x-rays of my back, from all the hits. So now I have spinal degeneration. I have a neck that's straight from all the hitting. I got a lower back that's crooked two different ways from all the impacts, all the overarching. Uh, I used to be able to eat whatever the hell I wanted, and we would party on fucking Friday. So
Can't do
I
that.
had drinking whatever, eating
Yeah.
whatever, and I look back, I'm like, yo, all right, man, we gotta fucking like, I gotta delete that old person. That shit is out the door. So like the last couple of years, I've had to like learn outside of regular medicine because anytime I went to a doctor, they would just try to give you pills. I'm like, I'm not interested in pills. I need like this is habitual. I have bad habits,
Yeah.
so. I feel like I'm on like this rehabilitation from a years of being an athlete. Even a doctor, the one I went
Well,
to
and
call
younger
back, she
too.
was like, you sound like you just used to be an athlete that was in shape. You're not used to feeling out of shape. She's like, I said, no, I'm a fat piece of shit. She's like, yeah, you just need to stop drinking and eating. So like, well, I tell my friends now, like, I'm like, I just got back on the grind. I'm gonna quit drinking for a year and a half until I turn 40. So that removes any that fucking drinking fucks it all up.
Yep.
And people think like some of my buddies think I'm crazy when I don't eat. Like I'm doing one meal a day. Like you gotta
Yeah.
eat like small meals. I'm like,
Dude.
look, I'm a piece of shit. I eat really bad. Like my gut's like, hey man, just take a break. I don't even need food. You got plenty in you. I need a break. I need to like just shut it down. Shut it the fuck down. We don't need much. Because like I could sit here and not eat all day and my stomach will barely growl. And it tells me my stomach is still working on shit from like last week. Like I've just been fucking it
Dude,
up.
it's amazing. I've messed with fasting, intermittent fasting, longer fast. I've
Once
done
a
I've
week,
done
right?
I've done 3 different times. I've done 5 day fasts.
Nice.
Plenty of 3 days, 24 hours, all that intermittent fasting, and you really do feel your best in a fasted state. And I
Absolutely.
and I know there's a time where you have a diminishing law of return or a law of diminishing return at some point, right? Like I'm not going to break a back squat record after a 5 day fast. I get
Yeah.
that, but autophagy is a real thing, and you talk about the mental clarity, and when you open your eyes in the morning and you're fasted, there's no sleep in your eyes. There's no like
Yep.
grogginess. It's
Yep.
legit. You open up your eyes, and it's like you've been awake for 3 hours.
As I've gotten older, if I eat even late now, like that, even not if I eat bad, if I just eat later, dude, I feel it the next day. I like it makes it hard to get into the gym in the morning because my stomach is still working on it. Because I can tell my metabolism has slowed down. But when I fast, when I get good, like a year ago, I was down way more weight. I had quit drinking. My metabolism was so much faster. I could eat whatever, and like I could eat like a burrito and be like, I don't even feel tired. I'll move right through this thing. Like I'm ready to
Yeah.
rock.
No.
Again, fasting, we go back. Fasting in ancient, it was some of the most ancient medicine. And if you even look past that, as humans, as hunter-gatherers, we were fasted all the time. We were in ketosis often. So, it was funny, like I had a very prominent physician who does sports medicine and emergency room care. And talking about like ketones. And when you say ketosis to a physician, like dietary ketosis, they're like, oh, wait a minute, that's bad. That's bad. It's a disease state. And but it's not. Certain levels are, and if you're a diabetic, there's obviously things, but we survived, and ketones are one of the first fuels. So like the exogenous ketones right now that are coming out, like ketone IQ and these, they actually started in special ops. So they were trying to develop quick fuels that these operators, if they didn't have access to food, could use a little shot of these ketones and fuel them for 12 hours. That's actually how
Wow.
it got started. And now again, it's like I said, it's cool because it's coming into the public eye. And people are starting to realize, oh, wait a minute, ketosis, and we can use it as a lever. We can use these things. And, ancient knowledge, they might not have known the physiological pathways of why, but they knew. Traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture, they may not have known that, putting a needle into a myofascial
Yeah.
point would actually help relieve that pain. They might not have known why as we do now, but they knew it worked. So if we can draw on that ancient wisdom and put it into our modern day society, to me, that's like a win-win because we're not throwing that out. We're combining them two, right? It's the yin and the yang.
Yeah, I think that's a good going back to your mental like strength of like that when you say that just makes me think of everyone that's like, oh, you're doing a cold plunge too, like that fad, kind of like talking about it like the fad. I'm like, I can't tell you all the scientific crap. I don't even care to
Yep.
regurgitate. What I can tell you is if you go in there, you could feel all that dopamine, everything rush out the fucking back of your head and go down
Yep.
you.
It feels amazing.
It feels amazing. Like I don't need the science on it. I can feel it. I get done. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely a thing. That definitely unlocks something. Just like
Yep.
when I do the song, like those couple things, and that goes to. So what I'm saying is, a lot of people look back and they say, "Well, you doing those things? You doing those? Did that really work?" Or like, I'm like, that's the mental block. Like, hey, man, you got to go do it yourself. If you want to see why I'm doing this, you need
Yeah.
to go do it yourself and
Yep.
understand. Okay, you want to see what the cold pod's like? Get the fuck in it. Jump in it and understand. Like, get over yourself.
Well,
Jump in this thing, and you can understand what everyone else is seeing.
we're in a weird time. You said the yin and the yang, right? Combining these two things. If we and we're in the transition of it, I feel like, and I don't know if it's going to take 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, whatever. But at some point, if we can truly combine those two, I don't want to call them methodologies, like the science of everything, right? The great technology we have now, which is undeniable, and then the stuff that has been going on in the human race for millions of years, we could legit become superhuman.
Absolutely.
It will be we can create and we're already seeing it, the greatest human being. There's no excuse for us not to have the greatest human being we ever have. But right now we're kind of coming out of it. We probably have the worst human being that we've ever had.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
I
and
hope that it continues, that we can eventually get there.
I think
And
people forget that it's so simple.
that's really like the whole biohacking movement and stuff is a lot of it is looking at some of these ancient things and being able to use them today and be able to leverage them and put them at the forefront of our health. And for most biohackers and stuff, that's really what it is. They're trying to leverage all of these things outside of the medical office to be able
Yeah.
And it's
to be a
nothing
better
new. It's all been there.
we're keeping people alive longer, no
Yes.
doubt. But what's the quality of life? That's to
Bingo.
me like that's the concern. The insurance companies would love if you spent your last 10 years getting Medicare and Medicaid in a group home drooling on yourself and eating checkers.
Yeah. But
Right?
nobody wants that now.
Nobody wants it now.
Everybody
And
wants a longer life, I'm sorry, a younger life longer.
yes.
We're having kids later. I'm 43 and I got a 10-year-old and 6-year-old. Like
Yep.
I gotta be on my best in the next 10, 20
Absolutely.
years.
That's a big motivator
Absolutely.
for us. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always kind of joke around like I got to stay strong because I can't have my daughter's boyfriend be stronger than me someday. Or
Yeah.
I can't have her be impressed by some 18-year-old's 185 back squat because she's got to be
Agreed.
used to seeing dad back squat 400. Like
Yeah.
you're not. That's all you can back. Like I can't have her be impressed by that shit. You know what I mean? That's
I
my own
agree
little stupid
100%.
mind games I play with myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 52. I have a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old girls, and it's funny seeing. So I still train. I enjoy doing Thai boxing and jujitsu, and it's funny like being around the girls and their friends and stuff, and they're like, oh, what'd your dad do today? He's like, I don't know. He went and got beat up at kickboxing, and there's like, what'd your dad do? He's like, well, he drank a six pack on the golf course,
Yeah,
and
we are not the same.
It's interesting. It's like, but I like being in that space. I like to challenge myself and learn new things. And not that there's anything wrong with enjoying yourself and going out and golfing, but they get people get put into these paradigms, especially dads and stuff. The whole dad bod thing, and the whole that culture to me,
Ugh.
like it is community, but I think it could be better. I think that dads could be empowered more. They're going to feel better. They're going to have a better sex drive. They're going to have a better relationship with their kids, and with the
Yeah.
community. So that's another part of my goal too is, working with all different types of people. Nike used to have a great slogan, and it said, "If you have a body, you're an athlete." And I love that because it's like I have my youngest client that I work with is 8. I have an 8-year-old athlete I work with, and I have an 84-year-old athlete that just her sport is life. Grandkids, travel,
Yeah.
carrying a suitcase. And to me, I get the same chills if I'm working with an NFL athlete, or I just had this grandma who's 84 who texted me and said, I just went around the country for 2 weeks with my grandkids. We did a trip. I had no pain. I took my suitcase and I put it up in the top of the luggage rack. I'm like, fuck yes. It's the
It's
same.
the same thing. So CrossFit has, I don't know if it's CrossFit, but there's the saying, our needs as athletes vary in degree, not kind. That old lady talking about carrying a suitcase or putting it overhead in the compartment. There's a clean and jerk in there. There's a deadlift in there. That's why you need to do the basic Olympic lifts and do the basic deadlifting and pressing because you want to put your suitcase by yourself in the compartment. You want to be able to pick your grandkids up in their car carrier, right? That's a deadlift, that's a press,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So that's why it's important. People, what do you need to do burpees for? Make fun of burpees. Like I'm sure I'm going to fall down.
Yeah.
I'd rather just get up, right?
You
And
don't
have
want to
somebody
be
help me.
the old person just
Absolutely.
sitting there drinking sugar, having
Now,
20 Cokes a day and just sitting there watching the news and
all
hanging
the
out
yeah,
on the couch. And
all the quality of life. I'm keep checking on the time here. 10:22, getting close to your stop. I do want to ask you one thing real quick. It probably won't. It doesn't have to be quick, but you mentioned earlier psychedelics? What are your thoughts on this whole? It is kind of becoming more and more popular. Microdosing,
Yeah.
mushrooms, even LSD is still starting to come back. Although that world, I've recently dipped my toe into it. I have nothing but great things to say about it. What are your thoughts on it?
Hypothetically, I've been around and been able to see the use and the positive of use of psychedelics for 30 years. Hypothetically, if I were to help people through this mission, I think that of course there's certain people that should not use them. I think that finding trusted practitioners and therapists to help along with this, but they are they will be the new medicine. That's, I think, will cure a lot of the depression and mental health that's going on. And even some of these, they're calling type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. And like I mentioned, that study about LSD, these studies they've been hidden. And there's an entire reason why. I think it'll be the medicine of the future.
Yeah,
And I've personally seen it help. I've seen it work with veterans. I've seen it work with professional athletes that are coming out of retirement. Um, the enlifted method is an amazing, so like there's something they talk about like integration, right? So it's not just about taking the substance, it's about the integration work. It's about doing work before and after. And the enlifted method is an amazing tool for that, of getting your stories from your head down on paper. And then when and if you decide to use some of these psychedelic drugs, it just enhances the experience and you have a guidepost. And I've seen it personally make amazing changes in people under the right circumstance, obviously.
yeah,
yeah. You
well, it's good to microdose because nobody wants a violent high. If
nah,
anybody's been there before, they don't really talk about the fucking bad ones.
no.
Well, and that's what's
That's the thing.
important. That's
And
what's
again,
important.
Yeah, it is important. Like
the
everybody, even you talk about I microdose. I feel everyone's like I feel good. Like You know, there's fucking bad highs too. You ever been on a
Yeah,
bad high and go, am I coming back psychologically from this? This is
yeah.
fucking crazy right
But
now.
just like everything else, the information is out there and it's
It's out
pretty
there.
easy to find as far as like how to do it right. And I know the very first time I microdosed and it was a very light microdose and it was incredible the way I felt and I was paying attention to it, right? I was alone, really
Intention.
wanted to see what it was. And a couple things I took away from it was I was the absolute best mentally that I could possibly be. It was like all my good attributes, all the great things that I love about myself were way out front and you believe them wholeheartedly.
For sure.
And
For
then
sure.
I noticed that I could not stress myself out. I purposely tried to think about the things that I knew stressed me out and I couldn't do it. I could not give myself anxiety, right?
Yes.
And it was like, holy shit, this is 300 milligrams of a psychedelic, and I felt good, right? Because you feel good, but trying to be aware of these things, like this is why it works for people that suffer from real anxiety. I don't,
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
PTSD.
And one of the reasons why they figured that out, and this is because they were able the guardrails had been taken off for research, is that there's something in our brains called the default mode network. And the default mode network is kind of like our ego, we call it. And what we know about psychedelics is that psychedelics will break down that default mode network. And when that happens, the ego decreases and we're able to introspect on ourselves, and we're also able, there's a sense of community and a sense of connection that happens. So
Mm,
we're really on the forefront. And I'll send you a little bit later today, I'll send you some amazing research and podcasts and stuff on that.
That'd be great.
But yeah, I think we're on the precipice of an amazing revolution with
Yeah.
that. People are starting to research and figure out ways that they can leverage some of these, again, ancient medicines that they've
Yeah.
used in order to come to the forefront. Yeah, it's amazing, man. And
So I had a buddy, real quick. He's disabled vet, physically, with real terrible knee injury that's haunted him forever. Um, Overstressed, anxious, runs too many businesses, all the things compiled on him. He was functionally addicted to pain medicine, Oxycontin, what's the other one? Percocet, stuff like that. But like he's not like a drug addict, but just functionally addicted to them. He spent a shit ton of money to go to Mexico on this retreat
yes,
that
yes,
that treated with psychedelics. Doctors, the whole nine, completely controlled. He there for 3 days, comes home, knee pain is gone. He's like, I came home and I legit just threw away like thousands of dollars worth of pain medicine. He's like, and I
yeah,
haven't taken it. Like I don't.
Yeah.
He was like, now I know there's homework I have to continue to do to continue this, but he was blown away that like overnight, like that, there's an addiction that's gone. There's
yeah.
chronic pain that's all
Yeah.
but gone, right? There's mental clarity that's kind of defragged his brain. And that's one of my best friends, right? So like
You meet
he's not lying. I see it, you know?
Yeah,
you
you
meet
see
you
it.
meet
You see
you
it.
meet something greater and more powerful than yourself.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Like even if you've been in like you ever eaten way too much
Oh yeah.
edibles, and you gotta succumb to that. You need to like drop your ego and say, there ain't nothing I can do about this. This is a horrible ride. I
That's a
got
whole nother
horrible
thing.
thoughts. You just gotta
It's
let go.
Yeah,
it's an amazing
that's another thing.
amazing piece of the picture, and we can, if you guys want, we can continue this
Yeah,
conversation another time, and
Dude, let's
I'll
do it.
I'll shoot you some resources, and yeah, we can go down the rabbit hole.
Matt,
let's do a rabbit hole one.
Matt, you've been great. I appreciate it, man. I know we're going a couple minutes later than I really wanted to, but real quick, if somebody wanted to find you, where's the best place to reach out?
The best place is probably Instagram. So,
Okay.
Matt Meyer 911 at Instagram, and that's where I'm fairly active on. And then if you can shoot me messages and stuff like that. I'm pretty good about checking them, and I'm more than happy to
Sweet.
answer questions and give people resources. Educating, that's the key. So yeah, feel free to reach out, and If I don't know something, I have lots of people that can usually help and put people in the right direction.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations on people you think we should talk to?
Oh man, yes, and I'll send you guys some information off that only because I got to roll. I
Yeah,
got
you're
some
good.
rolling up.
No,
But yeah, I got a bunch
Send it
of people
on over.
guys to get on that page, man. To get on
aw-
and get on that podcast.
awesome, Matt. Thanks again, dude. I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
Enjoy the day.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Holla.
See you.